Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be here on another week to be reading out for you more of my writing. Kwanza, the story for today is so juicy, so I hope you guys are prepared. I hope you have like a nice mug of coffee, tea, whatever it is that you like to do when you want to like cozy in and maybe read a book. Get that. And let's get right into it. I'm not even gonna do a long introduction because this one is a juicy one. Okay, so guys, I'm just gonna pull up the article. Okay, so this is also another this is going to be part one of another series that I recently started. I started this series in April, and I think it's going to be like a really interesting series because it's going to just talk about various dating experiences of mine, and any types of dating experiences of mine which I felt like were really interesting, but where either the relationship was short-lived or it didn't work out, or it was just like a really nice dating experience but nothing ever came out from it. That's basically what's going to be in this series. So the one I'm going to be reading to you today is called The Time I Dated Two Zimbabwean Best Friends. Oh my goodness, guys, I actually did that, and a lot of you are probably asking, by dated, what do you mean? Wait for the video. Probably gonna ask, was it at the same time? So not wait for the video, wait for the article. Wait for the article. Was it at the same time? Wait for the article. This one is a juicy one, but basically the topic is the time I dated two Zimbabwean best friends. So let's get right into it. The time I dated two Zimbabwean best friends. My 20th year was a wild time. I went through a lot of character development, but I also had such a blast as I partied the year away. I was in second year at the time. I met Anesu towards the end of summer in 2015. I had just moved into a new 2-bedroom apartment in Rondebosch, Cape Town. I was sharing the apartment with an older Ugandan girl who will call me Remember for privacy purposes. I really didn't like her. She was very OCD, and I felt really uncomfortable living with her as she always found something to complain about. It felt like I was a visitor in my own home, but that time my dad was paying her a whole lot of money for my rent. Anesu was Zimbabwean and he was our next door neighbor. He lived alone in a studio bachelor flat. That period of my life was my hot girl era. I was falling more and more in love with fashion and discovering my personal style. I was quite daring with my looks and always dressed to kill. One evening, I was returning back to the flat after having some drinks with a couple of friends at this popular bar called Down South on Rondebosch Main Road. We had a small garden in the complex which various residents would use to braai and host their guests. Anesu was there hosting a bunch of friends and having a braai. I could see him from the corner of my eye checking me out as I rushed into my flat to change my outfit and shoes before heading out to the club. On my way back out after changing, he walked up to me and introduced himself. We exchanged contact and made plans to hang out soon. The next day was a Sunday and I was busy nursing my hangover from the night before when Anesu called me. He invited me over to his flat for some Sunday lunch and wine. I was very eager to accept the invite when I heard there was free food involved. I got dressed and was soon knocking on Anesu's door for the first time. We spent the first hour enjoying some bride meat and getting to know each other. I found out that he was a software developer in his early 30s. We bonded on that fact because I was also studying computer science at the University of Cape Town at the time. The conversation flowed like a river and I was really enjoying myself. I started sipping on some of the bubbly that he offered me and soon after was feeling a bit lightheaded and tipsy. At the time, I had only had sex once before, story for another day. I had also never enjoyed sex. Before I knew it, I was seated on his bed and Anesu was whipping out his dick. That is the first time I saw an uncircumcised penis. I stared at it in confusion and asked him why it looked the way it did. He then explained how he hadn't been circumcised and proceeded to kiss me. I was quite naive and new to the whole sex game, but I was curious and willing to try with Anesu as he seemed to be a nice guy. We also seemed to have a lot in common. He played a bit with my clit by rubbing it, which turned me on. He then proceeded He then proceeded to put on a condom and penetrate me. I didn't enjoy the penetration. All I felt was pain and discomfort. That is the first day I realized that my pussy was really tight. Anesu kept going on and on about how he had never felt a vagina as tight as mine. He came really quickly. Afterwards, he asked me whether we could be doing this more often. He claimed that he would help loosen up my vagina if we had more and more sex. I now realize that this was a big lie. Haha, I don't know how many men have told me that they could help widen my vagina if I have more and more sex with them. I don't even know why these men thought that I wanted to widen it up, because I didn't. All I wanted was to enjoy penetrative sex, which most of them were unable to accomplish with me. Till today, my pussy hasn't widened. It's still the same old tight hole. The only difference is now I know that I need to be extremely wet before engaging in penetrative sex. If not, it will be extremely painful and unenjoyable. Anyway, I went back home that evening and all I could think about was that I had to learn how to make myself come, because these men were clearly not doing it for me. The story of how I achieved my first orgasm is linked to this story, but I'll save it for another day. Let's move on to when I met Anesu's best friend. The next weekend, Anesu hit me up and asked me to come over. It was a Sunday afternoon again, and he was hosting his best friend Tinotenda at his place. Tinotenda was also Zimbabwean. Immediately I walked in, Tinotenda and I exchanged looks and I instantly fell for him. Apparently Anesu had told him all about me and insisted that Tinotenda and I should meet. Tinotenda was also a software developer and was rather impressed by my computer science background. We spent the afternoon getting to know each other, and it was obvious that he also shared the same feelings as I did. We exchanged numbers before Tinotenda left, and he promised to keep in touch. That evening after Tinotenda left, Anesu was still trying to get into my pants. He tried fondling me, but I wasn't feeling his vibes and opted to just go home. I couldn't help but wonder whether he had introduced me to Tinotenda so that they could both share me. I went home feeling rather uneasy as I really liked Tinotenda, and I didn't want to be used as a sex plaything for these men. When I got back to my flatmate Miremba came to knock on my door. She said that she needed to talk to me about something serious. I went into the living room and sat with her while I waited to hear what she had to say. Miremba started to slut shame me. She told me that I was giving off a very bad impression and I was going to land into hot soup. She told me how Anesu was engaged and soon to be married. Apparently, his fiancée used to visit him a lot at the flat, and Miremba had also met her. She warned me about going to visit him again. I mumbled a thanks for telling me and quickly went to my room and texted Anesu. I asked him why he hadn't told me about his soon-to-be wife. Anesu admitted that he was actually engaged and said that he was unable to control himself around me. He then continued to badmouth Miremba, saying that she liked him and was trying to ruin our relationship because she was jealous. Over the next few days, I observed how Miremba would act around Anesu. She always got so giddy and shy around him, and it was very obvious that she had a crush on him. I later told Anesu that him and I couldn't continue seeing each other. He was in a committed relationship, and I really liked his best friend. A couple of weeks after our first meetup, Tinotenda asked me out on an official date. He came to pick me up and drove me to the winelands, where we enjoyed an intimate wine tasting and lunch. He seemed to like me a lot. Tinotenda was really sweet and I could feel myself falling for him hard. He was 30 years old at the time and 10 years older than me. We talked about our lives and flirted all through the date. He even stole a couple of kisses here and there as we sipped on some wine and enjoyed the breathtaking views that Stellenbosch has to offer. That evening, he took me back to his place and we had sex. I really enjoyed the sex with Tinotenda. Even though his dick was bigger than Anesu's, it didn't hurt as much. He was focused on pleasing me in bed and only penetrated me once I had come at least once. By that time, I had already experienced having an orgasm, which made it easier for me to direct him and ask for what I wanted. I was sure that I wanted to further pursue things with Tinotenda by the end of the date. I kept wondering whether Anesu had told him about our sexual encounter. They were best friends, so I figured they must have talked about it, but I wasn't too sure. Tinotenda also seemed to want more with me, and I wondered how he could be okay with the fact that his best friend had also fucked. The next time I met Tinotenda, I decided to come clean. He had just picked me up from my Kenyan friend Supi's birthday party and drove me back to his place where I had planned to spend the night. I was quite tipsy. I told him that I liked him a lot and couldn't keep the truth from him. I told him all about the sexual encounter with Anesu. To my surprise, he had no clue that Anesu and I had slept together. I could tell he was a bit upset, but he was very thankful to me for telling him. I went to bed soon after as I was quite drunk. Nothing sexual happened between us that night. The next morning, we talked more about the whole situation. He told me that he was still interested in pursuing a relationship with me. I was so happy to hear that because I really liked Tinotenda. He dropped me back home that morning. When I got home, I got a flood of messages from Anesu asking me why I had told Tinotenda about us. Apparently, Tinotenda had called Anesu the previous night when I was fast asleep and questioned him about not saying anything about us. Tinotenda was very upset with his best friend, and I'm pretty sure that this whole love triangle that involved me heavily affected their relationship. They stopped hanging out as much and ceased to be as close as they previously were. Tinotenda and I continued dating for a while. He was looking for a serious relationship while I was in the prime of my hot girl era. I wanted to continue partying a lot and meeting other guys. He didn't like how much I went out and drank, but would put up with it for my sake. Tinotenda soon got promoted at work and moved to a better neighborhood. Once he moved, he significantly reduced his communication with me and we slowly started drifting apart. He often made excuses about being too busy, and the few times we met up it felt like he just wanted sex from me. He stopped being the romantic that he had initially been. I soon became bored of the direction the relationship was taking and also stopped contacting him. Despite it not working out in the end, I'll never forget those couple of months we spent together. He still crosses my mind from time to time, and I always wish him well and hope that he managed to find his one true love. So that is the story of Tinotenda and Anesu. Obviously, these are not their real names because I don't want, to be just exposing people like that on the internet, especially the one who was engaged, Anesu. Funny enough, I've actually been with a guy called Anesu, like in real life, another Zimbabwean, but that's a story for another day. So please leave your comments in the comments section. Comment about this love triangle that I was involved in with two Zimbabwean best friends in Cape Town who are both computer science people as well, who are working in the industry. What a time to be alive. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video and I'll catch you guys in my next one. Bye.